they're going to bring up insecurities in you that you didn't even know you had. Simply put, guys, and now it's okay. Romans 8:28, God's purging these to let these go so Satan doesn't have a foothold over them, because Satan will use these things, guys, and twist them so it continuously gets better. But like Mallory says, you're not going to be perfect, and don't believe the lie that everything has to be perfect before you get married. No. We have God's promise, the confirmation, and he's going to work at all these things for those who love him and are called according to his plan. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode on the Christian
Faith
Podcast, guys. This is episode 4. We are going strong. Come on, type a little amen in the chat, guys. Let's get it going. We're gonna jump straight in. My name is David Christian Hammond. I'm here with my wife,
Mallory Faith Hammond.
And this podcast, guys, is really all about equipping couples to better glorify Jesus. Yes, biblically masculine men, biblically feminine women, and together, guys, we can serve God, because our world is super anti-Christ and against Christian relationships in particular. So with that said, I'm going to let Mallory intro what we're going to be speaking about today, and we're going to jump straight in.
Yeah, so today this has been a long-awaited video for people who follow my YouTube channel specifically. Dave and I posted a video back in February, our testimony of how God brought us together, and we mentioned that we would make an in-depth video about all the questions that we asked when we were recording, how we went about that, the difficulties that came with it, and I believe now it's very fitting to make a video on it. Now being married for, I think, 4 months. Yeah, and we can testify that because of how thorough we were with the questions we asked, it definitely saved us a lot of headache, we believe, now that we've been married. So yeah, if you want to start.
Absolutely, guys. So again, this is going to be very free-flowing. We're going to try to keep it somewhat on point, because we can get, especially myself, way off on tangents, but y'all know what's up. So with that, yeah, we're going to tell you some things from a man's perspective and a woman's perspective, of course, lining it up biblically, things we noticed, things that were really just green flags that I noticed in Mallory and vice versa, things that maybe I could have looked out a bit more for, or things that I would have people, good and bad. We'll probably make a red flag video in the future. But with that, the first thing I would say, guys, the very first thing that I noticed about Mallory, and this is just to back it up a little bit. Do you want to tell them how we met, like how we started meeting real quick?
Yeah, a brief summary of how we met. We've touched about it here on this podcast, and maybe we can link our actual testimony video above. But basically, David and I were living out Matthew 6:33 to the best of our capabilities and knowledge. That specifically looked like trying to grow in evangelism as best as we possibly could. I had my online ministry on Instagram specifically, and David had his on Instagram and YouTube primarily. And we just met through that. We were brought together kind of naturally, trying to help sharpen one another with evangelism and apologetics and stuff, and how to better, evangelize or share the gospel, with people of different groups. And yeah,
so that's kind of how we met, guys. And I'm just going to keep it up buck with you, okay? No more holding back, because I'm afraid of offending too many women or stuff like that, guys. We just got to keep it honest. So I truly do believe, as a man, guys, I was on my Pollock for around 3 years before I met Mallory. Really just full sending it, guys. As a man, you got to full send it. Find what God's calling us for your life and full send, slay demons, okay? And what happened was, I saw Mallory, and I'll be brutally honest, the reason I reached out to her, or whoever reached out to who first, was because I saw that Mallory I had a hint, so I knew she was an evangelist. Let's put it that way, okay, guys? And as a future evangelist, right, or a former evangelist, what am I saying, former? As an evangelist, we want to exhort other Christians, other evangelists. It's as simple as that, guys. And so I saw Mallory, and I had a feeling, you know what? Look, you've been doing this stuff online behind, the camera, on Instagram, yada, yada. I want to help you get out there. I want to help you take it to the next level. And I'm not sure if maybe she had a story, or I don't know how the conversation came about, but she knew that's what I do, right? I would go to universities. That's Christ Develop. I would evangelize, do debates. And I basically threw the ball in her court, where I was like, hey, I really think you'd be very well suited for this. You're good at scripture. You seem like you're decent at apologetics. You got a good testimony. I would love to help you in any way. And granted, guys, I coach 15, 20 people at once. This is not oh yeah, get that fine Latina baddie girl, because I'm going to slide with, no. It was just, I wasn't attracted to her at that point, guys. It was just purely hey, I think you're great at this. You're skilled. Why don't you go out and do it? And the first thing, the first green flag, I would say, I don't know if you'd consider this a green flag, but Mallory was completely on board with that. And I think that's a green flag, guys, because with your future wife, again, guys, I'm not saying that you have to be a street preacher or this, but you guys should be equally yoked. So the fact that she was a girl and she was like, oh yeah, I don't know if you want to tell him, you were like, I 100% want to go out.
Okay, well, I'll clarify. We had been going back and forth a little bit, replying on stories, maybe a few times.
Little bits.
You replied to a story that I posted about me and Big Nick's podcast together, and you're like, wow, this is really really cool. And then I mentioned that I was feeling inclined, or like a inclination from the Holy Spirit, to start going out to college campuses. That's something that I had.
Just hit your camera a little
Yeah,
bit.
I know.
Did it move that bad?
Yeah, no, it's okay. So again, I just want to clarify, when he had replied to one of my stories, I had mentioned that also because he was also asking me advice on how I evangelize to people in LGBTQ, because that was something that I guess you could say I was like well versed in. Right. And yeah, it's so weird looking back at it. I was like, yeah, let's schedule a call. Like, we can talk about everything. And then that's where he started to pour into me about like how to start with evangelism.
Now I try to get my phone number quick, guys. I'm telling you, guys think I was sliding. Like, I was just like, hey, if you want evangelism help, this chick within 2 minutes was like, yep, here's my phone number. Take it right now. Call me whenever. Let's schedule it up. And I was like, okay.
But again, on same thing. It was the same thing on my end. Like, I didn't find you attractive at this point, but I will say, like I mentioned in one of the previous videos, I really respected you. There wasn't very many like evangelists or people on Instagram that I really respected, because like you mentioned before, there's a lot of people on social media that are comfortable saying a bunch of stuff within the comfort of their home, but to go out in the battlefield, like I had already done a handful of times beforehand, you know, been going street preaching, like I said, going out and evangelizing and stuff, and it's just different.
So that's how we met, guys. And the first green flag that I would say was Mallory's willingness to do that, guys. If you were a leader, we are looking for a good helpmate, okay? So if I was saying, hey, you know, if I, like, think of it this way too, if I heard God correctly, God was kind of like, hey, you like help her out, as far as just, because you got to keep in mind too, there was another girl I was coaching before that. And guys, again, with Christ Developed, I would coach men, women, how to evangelize. So it was just that. And I think that's really important for you guys. I'll be brutally honest. I just bought a third camera, guys, that was supposed to be right there. And we found out that it wasn't what I thought it was. And the reason I'm saying that, guys, is because Mallory brought it to my attention. She was like, you know what? Because I was on Facebook Marketplace. It's only $300. I probably won't get the money back. Maybe we'll sell it. Maybe not. If you want a camera, hit me up. But Mallory was like, hey, you know what? Maybe she needed the money and you were able to just gift that to her. And it really kind of got me thinking, like, I think that's the best heart posture to have, which I'm not saying I had it at that point, but that's the best heart posture to have as a man, just to like want to help a sister, want to help a brother or a sister. And because I put that out there, the first thing I noticed back was Mallory was very receptive to that. She was like, hey, you know, I really respect what you do. I'm also on board with this. I'm very interested. So simply put, guys, you got to be equally yoked in that sense. If you're an evangelist, try to find someone else who's very interested in evangelism. If you're into apologetics, if you're into like, I don't know, Christian health, food, cooking, like you should find a woman ideally who's also interested in that. Simply put, guys, to wrap it up here, you should find a woman who is receptive to your leadership as a man. That's really what it came down to. If I was like, hey, Mallory, you know, I'd love to help you out, you know, give you some free advice, whatever. And she was like, I don't need no help. I can do it all myself. Like, I don't think anyone would ever say this, but no, I'm okay. Thank you. Like, you know, just basically kind of not receptive to your leadership, or you pouring in as a man, which again, number one, guys, comes from your Paul arc. You have to be able to have something to pour into. Like your woman, guys, despite who tells you what, does not want to be teaching you theology. She doesn't want to be your mama. She doesn't want to be your pastor. She doesn't want to be holding your hand. Like you as a man ideally should be, I'm not saying in all cases, but you should be farther along in your Christian walk, I feel 9 out of 10 times, than your woman, because you're the leader, man, okay? Doesn't mean she can't sharpen you up in things. In fact, Mallory knows probably, maybe at this point, definitely more in the Old Testament, more in the Bible than I do, okay? That's okay. But with your Christian walk, you understand your leadership. Is she receptive to being led? And that was the first green flag I noticed. Yes, she was receptive, and that kind of set the whole frame with everything.
Right. I think we share that just to kind of remind you guys that 90% of the work that is done to prepare for marriage should be happening while you were single. Mm-hmm. That is why David and I were able to get married in what a lot of people said was way too fast, but it's because we were, like we talked about in the last video, we cut off majority of the dead idols. We're seeking God to the best of our knowledge and ability. And I'll give a disclaimer before we go deeper into these things. Like, this doesn't mean that we were perfect. Like, in fact, when God brings you that person, they're actually going to purge out even more that you didn't think that like you had to get rid of or get better or sharpen about yourself within your life. But I think before we start getting into like specifically how we're recording, I would say the first green flag that I noticed within David, it actually touched about kind of in the last video, but that I highly respected him. And that's like the biggest green flag I will give you women. Do not go for the man that you think is physically attractive. Do not go for the man that you think is like the pretty boy or like he makes you feel like sunshine and rainbows. Go for the man that you respect. And with that respect, he may trigger you at times. You know what I mean? Like a good pastor is going to trigger his congregation, but that congregation respects him and his authority. And I say that because the Bible makes it very clear that wives are to respect and honor their husbands. Yeah. So if your foundation for your love or like your admiration for this man starts with respect, it's going to be significantly easier for that respect to then carry on over the years of marriage. Yeah, but
that actually honestly tied that beautifully with like the point I said with Mallory's ability to submit to my authority, whether I in whatever way that is, guys, it's going to be a little bit different, right? And then her ability to respect, those go hand in hand. It's almost like that's level one of being married. Some feminists are going to disagree, but like, I know it says wives submit unto your husbands and husbands love your wives. If there's not a foreshadowing of that beforehand, like if there is no respect on her end or some level of submission and there is no leadership for me, right? We're both just kind of like, I don't know, man, whatever modern Christianity dating is, there's no difference. There's no distinction. Both people are like, kind of these like hermaphrodites, both men, both women, each paying for the bill, there's no distinction, right? That was the first layup that we both had, that we were able to see, okay, look, we're not married by any means, but there's definitely good soil here. There's good ground. So for my men, guys, that's why we always say, or I always say, and I'll make many videos on, you have to be on your Paul arc. If I had nothing to be able to lead her to, right? Evangelism, the Christian walk, why would she respect that? And because of I can say this to a lot of women, the lack of respect women have, like, there's no way a woman is going to marry you as a man if she does not respect you first as a brother in Christ. Right. Okay. That's kind of what you were saying.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up too, because I remember what actually gave God, I guess you could say, the layup to tell me that you were my future husband was you're really challenging me in certain areas, whether it be like correction in theology in some points, right, or certain things that I was like noticing where a lot of the other people that were in my life at the time completely disagreed. But then David would be like, no, you're right in noticing this. You know, I was seeking the Lord about it and I'm like, God, I don't know if I should trust this guy. But he kept telling me, trust his leadership, trust his leadership. But like I had to see receipts from your life either previously or while we were like friends or talking that, you know, because trust is earned. It's not just something that is freely given. So I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I think for women, for men, but even men, you can evaluate this within yourself. Like, am I giving anybody, but especially a woman, the receipts or like the ability to trust me? Can I even trust myself, you know?
Yeah, guys, the reason we're really hitting this point is because this is the bedrock of a relationship. Yes, as a Christian, but just in general, if there is not a mutual agreement, and it's very subconscious too, as far as like, hey, look, and this is why some of you guys can disagree. I think the reason it worked so well off the rip was because we entered the relationship with that dynamic as the mentor and I'm teaching you. Yeah. So immediately Mallory submitted onto that. And again, we weren't married. That was never our like secret plan or anything. No, but it was like, hey, with my receipts, I want to take you under my wing. I want to pour into you. Are you receptive to that? So immediately from that point, we weren't like fighting for power. I'll be brutally honest with you guys. You can get triggered. If Mallory was mentoring me and I was saying like, hey, you know, teach me, you're out on the battlefield. I'm the man, but you're too afraid like an effeminate little kid behind your phone. You're out in the battlefield. You're slaying on the demons. Can you teach me, mommy? You think she's going to want to marry that? Do you think any woman is going to want to marry a man-child? Guys, she does not want to be your mom. And now, again, I need to make it clear. That doesn't mean I kind of joke and I say, Mallory reminds me of my mom a lot. Yes, she can have very nurturing qualities, good motherly qualities, but she's not your mom. Okay, that's very important. She wants to have good motherly qualities, but she's not your mom. So please, as a man, I'm not saying we got to be perfect, but for my sisters, they're not going to tell you this. If they are doing more than you as a man, dude, you should be ashamed of yourself. You're the leader, dude. You're the breadwinner. Yes, bring back traditional biblical masculinity. In Timothy, it says that if you do not provide for your family, you're worse than an unbeliever. And it's a joke, guys. It's a joke. You're not going to be splitting the bills. You're going to be taking 90% of the responsibilities. I mean, really all responsibilities, but you got to be taking the heat of it, man. Even when you're courting, I'm not saying now you got to be paying for it and everything, but that should be the mindset. That should be the mind frame of, hey, if this is going to work, I'm going to show you that I can guide and lead you now for, you know, what's to come.
Yeah. I think just to summarize the zeal that you were having, it's just to really, really beat it into y'all's young men's head specifically, but even young women of like, you're not in a position to even ask God, like, God, where is this woman for me to be able to court and stuff when you still have cracks in your foundation, basically. Like, if you don't have a full-time job, I mean, I'm speaking again, like summarizing what you were saying to men. If you don't have a full-time job, you need to be working. You need to be working with your hands. You need to be going out on the battlefield, you know, like, and I don't say this to demean any brothers, but like I mentioned in the last video, I didn't have feelings for anybody before David because I didn't see any other like men my age or closer to my age doing the same things and greater that I was doing. And that's what I would just encourage my sisters to really keep out for, is like a man who is objectively doing more, and because that's a sign that he's going to be able to lead you. Exactly. I feel like as women, we are going to be more susceptible to like fear of man because we're more vulnerable and we're softer by nature. But like, if the man is like that,
you're cooked.
It's so bad. But I will clarify one last thing before you go, is just because David was primarily leading me and mentoring me doesn't mean that I myself wasn't teaching him things, like, or sharpening him in some areas. Like, it was a mutual helping each other out. So that's a green flag for men to keep out on. It's like, it's not just you constantly giving these women orders, but like you were saying, she has to be receptive to it and wanting. Like, you shouldn't have to force a woman to follow you or to submit to you.
Yeah, and that's actually really good too. That brings us to our second point, guys. Like I said, really the whole point of this video is I'm just going to tell you things that I noticed that were great, and anything I wish I would have noticed. Obviously, I'm not going to gatekeep anything, guys. So the first thing that Mallory and I noticed, setting the frame, and I believe that this is a really good tried and true way for you guys, is that you have leadership qualities, you understand? And your woman or potential woman, whatever, can see that. But if she's not submitting from the beginning, and I need to make this clear, guys, I'm not saying she's like now your wife, she has to do everything you say. She doesn't have to do anything you say.
Yeah.
You're not married. It's not that like I have an iron fist and I have this power over you. No. But you guys need to understand this. It's almost like, imagine I have someone like an evangelist I really look up to. Now, I'm not married to this guy, but as a man, I can respect and I can say, you know what? I want you to take that leadership position because you have more receipts. I trust you. Really, that's what it comes down to, is I trust you, okay? So that's number one, right? She's trusting your leadership. Again, I'm not saying you're married. I'm not saying, because I know women are like, hey, technically, I understand, man, okay, or woman. But it's just like the heart posture of like, hey, I want to, even if I'm not going to get married to you, I want to take care of you. I want to lead. And then she kind of shows that receptivity. The second thing I would say, guys, leading on to that, which is maybe even more important, is yes, like Mallory said, you're both sharpening each other. She has to sharpen you two guys. That was the first thing I noticed. But really the second, and this was the biggest green flag I noticed in Mallory, is that she not only was able to keep up and confirm everything I thought politically, theologically, spiritually, but she was able to add stuff to that. I think there's so many relationships, and maybe this is mean or not, but I think a lot of guys get through the first hurdle where they're like, oh yeah, she submits. Okay, great. Or she's willing to be led. But then men aren't honest with themselves, and like she adds nothing to the guy's life. Like
they're wasting time.
Yeah, there's so many pretty girls that have a pretty face that I know so many Christian men are dating, but like she does not help you at all. Right. And you're just with her because she's a really pretty arm piece. Mallory was able to help me with so many things. I always said, like, I feel like we kind of both said this, like, I feel like I'm not crazy. I would send so many voice memos and back and forth because we were just bouncing ideas off each other. That's literally what we do now. We're in the car, and I truly believe, guys, we're equally yoked. So test her. You know, hey, man, is she really skilled in these things like you are? Because I'm telling you guys, please rewatch this video. Put it on 2x speed, rewatch it 5 times. If she is just a pretty little Christian thing, okay, but she is not adding that value, that sharpening to your sword, dude, you're going to get real tired of that. Yeah. And it's not going to work well. And that really will come down to our fault because you just bought the car because it was pretty, but it was a crappy car inside.
Yeah. I will say too, being very adamant to making sure you pick someone or court somebody that is equally yoked to you, especially intellectually and spiritually, is the number one way you can have confidence that you guys are going to be pursuing purity in your courting phase. Because a lot of the time what I've seen in people is why they end up falling into, fornication or borderline fornication is because they get bored. I mean, thank God we were kind of like long distance for majority of it, because like obviously there's going to be temptation, but like we were constantly having these sharpening conversations, you know what I mean? That like we're fixating our attention on Jesus. So like there wouldn't have been that room to like get into,
Yeah, guys, exactly. Like the quote goes, an idle mind is the devil's playground. Guys, I'm telling you right now, the majority of Christians, we date not because we're actually pursuing God and his will and sharpening each other. It's because we're bored, man. Yeah. As men, we're very visual. I understand. And thank God we actually weren't really attracted to each other. Guys, I really mean it. Like, please, I'm not saying we're the experts because like a lot of this was all God. Like I don't really take credit for any of this, guys. But go. This is going to sound kind of like bad, but like whatever, take it for how you want. There was like this movie of this like lawyer, and he was looking for like the best lawyer assistant, and he had like 10 girls lined up, and the first 9 were like super pretty, just the most like beautiful women. And then there was one woman at the end, she was like an elderly like black woman. I'm not saying that she could just be elderly. I'm just telling you what the movie was. Probably like 70 years old. And he just looked at her, he's like, I want you. And the reason for that is because he was like, I'm purely focused on what you can bring. Like there's not a chance in my mind I'm going to get distracted or bring you on or give you special perks because you look really pretty. With Mallory and I, we weren't attracted, man. I took her on merely, guys, and you can call BS on that if you want, but that's fine. I was coaching another girl alongside with her too. There's nothing like that, guys. Because there wasn't that, superficial attraction. I was just able to see her and test her so objectively, that iron sharpening iron, because of I didn't have those quote unquote rose-colored goggles. So please, guys, do the same. Like, man, this might sound mean, but like, I would so much rather you as a man date a 7 on looks, but a 10 spiritually, than a 10 out of 10 on looks, but a 7 or 6 spiritually. Any single day.
Yeah.
What does it say in Proverbs? Looks are deceiving, charm's deceitful.
Beauty is fleeting, charm is deceiving, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. And it's so funny that David brings that up, because I make fun of him about this all the time. But the last video he made in Canada with his David Hammond channel, his like personal channel besides evangelism and stuff, it was actually about me. He didn't reference me by name. This is before we had even met in person. But he was like, the title of the video was "The Best Trait You Could Find in a Future Wife," and he was like, now the reason why I was inspired by this video is because of this girl. She's a bit more masculine like, and it was just funny because in that video you were talking about everything that you're saying now, of like, guys, think about it. If you were to put a brown paper bag over the girl that you think that is supposed to be your future wife, or that you have feelings for her, would you actually still want to be with her? Is she providing anything intellectually, spiritually? Is she sharpening you? Yeah. Is she going to be somebody that's like you were saying, just not just her looks? So it's just so funny how you were saying that, then kind of in denial about the feelings, but maybe just like we just weren't aware of it.
Guys, I'm telling you, this is the most golden advice ever, because I was close. I don't think I would have done it by God's grace, but I know a lot of brothers, clients that I've had in the past, are very close, and it's all Satan. I was close to not getting married to Mallory because I was too concerned with the superficial. And I'm here to tell you guys, thank God. Because you guys need to understand this too. I'm not saying I'm the best looking guy by a mile. That's not what I'm saying. But Mallory looked a lot different than she looks now. So a lot of you guys give me crap of like, oh, she's so pretty. I agree. I think I tell her that every day. But there was a big difference, okay, guys, back then. But I thank God every day that there was that part of me that said, David, I know maybe she's not your cup of tea, like the best of the best, but her internal traits are amazing. And I'm so grateful that I married her for that, because I didn't know she would get prettier, guys. And then what happened is God pulled through like a superhero movie happy ending and said, correct choice, David. And then just made Mallory way prettier. And that's going to happen in both of our areas. Maybe you're not the best looking guy, although I would argue looks are more important for women than men, because for men, guys, it's what you can provide. Like Mallory was saying, if you're dating the super, because there are way better looking dudes than me, man, but that's not the reason you married me. The reason women are going to marry you is because of your provision, your protection, your zeal towards God. Think of like the prophets, man. Think of like Moses, David. Maybe these guys were the best looking dudes, but I would argue they were dudes on fire. Think of Jesus. There was nothing like super special about him. But hey, if any lady, okay, I'm not even getting into that. But it's a godly man, godly men, guys. You understand? That's what we want. We want strong, masculine men. And if you do that as a man, the looks will come later in both departments. If you're a man, and maybe you're a little overweight, you weren't putting that time into it. Well, guess what? Because you're married now and your woman likes that stuff. Yes, you can put more time into that. But I think really for her, and this is just my best, exhortation to you guys, your woman, if she truly is following God and she's married to you, feeling safe, she is going to get objectively prettier because you're protecting her. You're allowing her to drop her guards down. I say Mallory was like a little pink piggy, and she was like if you guys take a pink pig and you put it in the wild, it becomes a boar. It literally grows thicker fur and tusks. When I found Mallory, she was that boar. She was just out slanging and banging. Like she was, she's very aggressive. She said very much more masculine, not like the prettiest, but like the reason for that I understand is because like when a woman, guys, you have to understand that has all these bills to pay, all these responsibilities, that is not in a woman's nature. Okay. A lot of feminists say I can do whatever a man can. First off, you can't, but even if you could, who says you're going to do a good job? Yeah. Men have the mantle of that pressure, of that stress. I was 20K in debt, working full-time labor, growing the business from scratch. I have a mantle and a grace over me. Mallory doesn't. It doesn't mean she can't do it, but she'll turn into a little boar, okay? Yeah. We'll both turn into boars, but men, we have the grace of being boars. You know what I mean? So when I took her in, I gave her the house. I was able to take off a lot of that burden and load. I'm not saying you have to now pay every single thing, but a lot of that burden, she's going to transform into that fluffy little pink piggy. And now she's a little pink piggy, and I love her more every day. Go be a pink pig.
Yeah. Speaking of that, it's kind of a random thought, but I think it makes complete sense how now God's giving me the open door to like pay off my debts. You know what I mean? Because I'm like submitted under a man, that would have been impossible for me to do if I was single and still paying all those bills.
Now I'd be a homeless little piggy without me.
But okay, so everything we just talked about was before we had met in person. This was sending voice memos back and forth, which again is so cool considering that video that you made. It's like, guys, if you would put a plastic brown paper bag over her, like you did it so bad. But like you did, and it was the same thing with me. I mean, I guess kind of not, because I was watching some of your YouTube videos, but if you were to like have a conversation with a girl just over the phone, like they did back in the day, would you objectively like still be attracted to her, like apart from the looks and the sex goggles?
Put a paper bag over your girlfriend right now for 1 month and honestly ask, like, do you want to get married to her? And I'm not saying that to be mean. For women, do the same thing. If you're very lustful and you're only looking at him for his cars or his Bugattis or whatever, honestly, like strip that. Put a paper bag over his car for a month and honestly, evaluate, like, is he truly leading me? So I know that sounds kind of misogynistic or triggering. Guys, it goes both ways in different ways. So relax.
I would say before I get into like another green flag I saw when we actually met in person was I actually saw it as a very good sign that you had little to no friends out in Canada. Now, if someone's just a lone wolf by themselves and they're not doing anything, they just play video games and stuff, that's a huge red flag.
It's not a lone wolf.
But it's the fact, but it's the fact that you were alone and you were still doing what God was calling you to do. That showed me that you were content with it just being you and Jesus. And I think that's an even better sign for men specifically, because I don't know, growing up and watching my dad only had one guy friend and they only ever got together for the sake of building something. And like there was a mission that they wanted to fulfill or they wanted to talk about business plans. So like anytime that I would see boys hang out just to hang out, I was kind of like, well, what are you doing? And then maybe this is just like our personalities, but even for me, I wouldn't really get along with a lot of girls because they would want to hang out just to like frolic with each other. And I'm kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, are we going to go out evangelizing? Are we going to like, I don't know. Maybe that's why I would get along with a bit more of like my brothers, because we talk about like business plans. We talk about, like future ministries and everything. But like, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. But basically that was like a really good green flag that I saw with you. And so practically speaking to my sisters and brothers, we mentioned in the last video, like cutting off dead idols or distractions out of your life. I think a good way for you to be a green flag is like cut out the people in your life that aren't sharpening you. Because with that, that's going to force you to really fulfill God's mission in your life. And when the man or woman comes into your life, you can actually discern that there's somebody there that actually benefits your life, that sharpens you, and you're not going to try to court them or date them for the sake of not feeling alone. Does that make sense? I just say all that to say, women, I think it's a really big red flag if a guy has a ton of guy friends and all they do is like hang out and play video games.
Yeah, I think what Mallory's getting onto, because again, for men and women, it's going to be different. I didn't know if Mallory was usually women guys are going to be more ecumenical in friend groups, yada yada. They're more social, right? They're much more agreeable, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think what Mallory's kind of getting at is like, if you're a dude, it just really comes down to wasting time. Like if you're a grown man and like you're constantly with like friend groups every weekend and this, that really is a sign that you don't have a strong Northern Star. You don't have a strong mission, unless all those men are all right moving towards that. Amen. But I always like to say, I don't have friends, guys. I have business partners. I have brothers in Christ, and there are very, very few. I'm here in Texas, guys, and like I have found, I'll be honest, none. none, guys. They're very rare. There are out there, but you need to be honest, because a lot of these guys that I maybe initially did hang out with, and they're, solid guys, it's very easy for men to circle jerk each other and to think that they're farther along the path than they actually are. Usually speaking, guys, and this is not because I'm some higher up cool guy. No, I'm just shut up, just relax. When men are truly on their Paul arc and they're fully serving the Lord, you're going to be lonely. Yeah. It's very lonely, guys. This is not about being better than people, but you need to be honest with yourself. The majority of times, why men continuously hang out every weekend, do these things, go to parties, yada, yada, is because they're not on their mission. They're distracting themselves. They're numbing themselves, and they can all cope when they're together. Like, oh, as long as like I'm not on it and you're not on it, it's kind of like a fat person, right? Like if you eat the donut, I'll eat it too. Then I don't feel bad. Guys, you got to be mission focused like an arrow. You understand? Very decisive as a man. So I think that's kind of what you're alluding to. What is up, guys? We're taking a quick second here to let you guys know that this ministry is, of course, self-funded by you guys. If any of you feel led to gift into this ministry, to sow into it, it is the first link below, guys. We use all proceeds to keep Mallory and I alive, as well as advance the kingdom, share the gospel, and go bring further souls to Jesus Christ. On top of that, guys, I offer one-on-one discipleship coaching to men for those looking to better pick up their cross, follow Jesus, get on their Paul arc, prepare for marriage, or to those men who are looking for further counsel.
Next, I offer one-on-one coaching and discipleship for any of my sisters out there who are interested and feel called by God to start embracing your God-given femininity and strength. Lastly, Dave and I also offer one-on-one coaching for couples. So if you guys are courting or looking to get married or are currently already married, you guys can find more information on how to book with us on the link down below.
Thank you guys so much, and we'll check you back in today's video. And then, so a green flag that I noticed from Mallory, because we're just giving different things that we noticed, guys, is I noticed, and this is going to go both ways, but when we met in person, now we're kind of on that, right? I noticed, guys, Mallory's willingness to help. The first thing I noticed, well, this was, I think, just like 2 days before I came, when we were sending voice memos, is I knew that Mallory at this point, I was mentoring her with evangelism. She was going out to university. She had her sign, and she was like, yeah, like, I'm going to come film for you, yada, yada. So my thought was like, oh, when I come to Texas, we'll both film for each other, which is fine. I'll go, you go.
I'll share this part.
Okay.
But yeah, he was sending me voice memo, was like, hey, let's just try to figure out how you're going to have your sign and my sign. Maybe you should bring another like camera person, right, and, I'll have my buddy film for me and stuff. And I was kind of like, I wasn't planning on bringing my sign at all. Like, I just wanted to film for you for the whole weekend. Like, you don't have a car, so I was going to like help pick you up, help you save on gas and stuff. I know travel's a lot. And I remember he sent a voice memo back. He was like, wow. Okay. Like, it was so foreign to him that like a woman or just like a person in general would just be like, just have a heart posture of wanting to help with no expectations of something in return.
Yeah, that's exactly it, guys. When she said, oh, I wasn't going to bring my sign, I just wanted to film for you. That was a huge green flag to me, because I was like, dang, like I know she's busy. She has stuff to do. And I don't know. It's not very common where you find someone like drop like one whole day or a few days out of their week to just like have, like, there's no gain. They're not on camera. They're not, okay, let me now film you. Like, no, she was like, no, I'll just be there. I'll just drive you around and film. And I'm not saying if your woman doesn't do that, doesn't drive you around now, it's bad. No. But in my case, that really stood out to me, because I was like, dang, okay, like she really has that servant's heart. Yeah, so I would say the first green flag, guys, and there were many, right, that I saw within Mallory when we met. This is, again, I was in Texas evangelizing. I was meeting with my buddy Braden, who I initially did the podcast with. Mallory and I were meeting up. I was there for about 5 days. The first thing I noticed, guys, and this kind of ties back to the first point, but Mallory's trust in my leadership. Like, when I wanted to maybe go to a university or I don't know, start with this sign or move into this debate, whatever it was, Mallory let me have the space to control that. Now, I asked for her advice. I was like, hey, like, what university do you think is best? And I'm not saying as a man, guys, like, you can never ask her for her opinion. No, I would ask her a ton, but she would always say, it's whatever you want to do. Like, where do you want to go? You have the final say at the end of the day. And that really let me kind of own up and almost like prove myself, where it's like, all right, bet, like, it's time to shine. So we went to the university. I was just fully unapologetic. I didn't have to like hold back because I was afraid of offending her, or this is too political, or this is too harsh. Dude, I was so unapologetically myself, and she was just there to further make that happen with recording, et cetera, et cetera. And it was so beautiful, because that kind of ties on to the next thing. I noticed after the first day of evangelizing, when I went all out, I had a crowd of like 5 people at the end, and they were just asking both of us questions. questions. And it was really great because Mallory was also, like I said in the previous point, she was sharpening not only myself, but them. And I remember saying to her, like, you know, we really do make a great team. You allow me to take on that leadership role, but you're not, it's not passivity. Understand? It's not that like, you know, shut up, you don't know anything. No. Mallory also, she ended up pouring into a bunch of the women, and we were doing almost like this like open Q&A with the people. She was able to keep up with everything, and it really was like a Batman and Robin. She was a really good asset, but very important, so key. She was not trying to usurp authority or steal the spotlight. Right. That's what I was trying to allude to with letting me be the leader.
I would say because I didn't even care if you were filming my evangelism. Like I didn't even post it. I was there solely for your thing and to film you. And I will point out too, he kept saying, it's like, we didn't talk about feelings or anything, and I could tell he was like a little bit in denial about it, but he kept saying that day, he was like, man, we make such a good team. I can see us traveling together, you know, Lord willing, yada, yada. But he kept saying it because we complemented each other so well. So like he did a lot of the, like, you know, he does polemicism, so it's like kind of breaking down strongholds. He was doing a lot of that, but then when he was talking to one of the girls specifically, I could discern that she was a lot more like emotional and needed more of like a motherly kind of evangelism. So that's when I stepped in, and like the floodgates started pouring out when we started talking. But I was able to do that. That's like my strength as an evangelist. I'm able to come with more of like a softer, loving tone. Yeah. Versus like, again, David does the breaking down, and I kind of did like the building back up. And then he got to pour into the men after and stuff. So it just, I would say too, a green flag that we both saw, but even for you guys to keep out is like, do you guys complement one another? Yep. David and I are very similar as far as people, like, I kind of say I'm kind of like the carbon copy girl version of him. But when it comes to our strengths and weaknesses, they're kind of opposite, if that makes sense. So, and I think that's just your masculine and my feminine able to like,
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, like with that camera thing, I just dropped like $300 and I might not get that back. And that was my fault. You know, there were certain specs with it, guys, that I thought I knew beforehand and I didn't. And it was Facebook Marketplace. She can't take it back. She had bills to pay, which is fine. That was on me. The first thing Mal did, because I was like fuming, I was pacing back and forth. I was like, that's just how men are, right? We're just like, how could you, like, you stupid idiot? And Mal was just like, it's okay, give me a hug, like, we're okay, like, don't worry. And then, well, yeah, when she really put it in my mind, which really helped me a lot, and she said, because it did look like the woman, like, you know, they weren't in the nicest area and stuff like that. And, you know, she said, like, she needed it for bills. And Mal was like, you never know, like, if that was God kind of, like, blessing her for the time being to
like,
pay
what
bills
if she
and
called
stuff.
Out to Jesus and was like, God, if you're real.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what if she was like, yeah, exactly. So that really helped with me. But, like, I wouldn't have done that by myself. If she wasn't here, I'd been like, you stupid idiot, man. Like what are we doing? Yada, yada. So, yeah, you compliment each other. I would say another thing, too, which is kind of a bonus tip. And, again, guys, we're just kind of ripping with our testimony, what we noticed. I noticed my card out in Texas, and I think about this now, how much of a green flag this was. My Apple Pay. So I have Apple Pay on my phone. You guys know what that is. I'm from Canada. That works in Canada. And I've been to the States many times. It worked everywhere else in the States. I've been to Austin before. I was in New York. I mean, that's the thunder. I've been to California, et cetera, et cetera. And Apple Pay worked everywhere. But for whatever reason, when I came here to Dallas, my Apple Pay didn't work. And I didn't have my wallet on me. So we're talking like, and there were some like kind of big bills, like grocery. I got groceries for like $50, $70. Maybe it was like the parking thing. Maybe it was like the coffee, little things. And I would always be like, yo, Mallory, like, can you pay her? Or she would just offer to pay it. Or you wouldn't even
ask. I would just pay.
She would just pay it because I couldn't. And the reason that's such a big green flag is because Mal had like no money. Like I didn't know that.
That was all what money I had.
Yeah, no, that was like, guys, like literally all the money she had. And like, I didn't know that. And here's the bonus on top. Mal did never ask or even expect me to pay her back. Like I told her, I was like, no, I'll pay you. Like I paid her back everything and then a bit some, but she was like, that wasn't where her heart was at. And I just think about that back then. I was like, man, if I only had $200 in my account and I paid like $150 for a dude and I didn't ask that back, can you imagine? Like, maybe you should ask for it back.
Well, I would point out, because I can see a lot of girls in the comments or even men like, oh, she was simping over him. It's like, no, God gave me an assignment to help you out for this season. And I made that very clear when we talk about feelings. We can even maybe go into that later on. But like, even if those feelings weren't receptive on David's end, I made it very clear, like, I'm still going to help you for the season. When you come to the States, like, I would love to film for you and stuff, you know, and help you with travel and everything when we're driving. But I paid for his stuff with a willing and what is it, like a heart of gratitude, not because of him or necessarily because like I wanted to, I don't know, like,
Riz him up.
Yeah, no, it was because I trusted God. I knew that even if he didn't pay me back, which I wasn't expecting him to, God was going to take that in account and he was going to bless me with the same, if not more, because again, I just done a number of things that allowed me to have, like, I guess that servant's heart. And I think that's what you were just continually noticing within myself, is like, I was willing to serve without any expectations of something in return.
Yeah, and then fast forward, it worked out because like there were things that like I had to help you with, and it came back in like triple amounts. Yeah. All right, guys. So that is the first half. After that, now let's talk. And again, guys, we're just going chronologically. That was the first time Mallory and I met. I then ended up going back home to Canada. I was there for about 6 weeks, and in that 6-week period, guys, it was really the last day I was in Texas the first time. Like as I was leaving, that's kind of when we realized like, okay, like we do like each other. We want to move forward. So we had another 6-week period before I came back. Like when I came back the second time, that's when we got married. But in that 6-week period in between that, that's when we were really now just going full blast on the courting of like, okay, look, if this is going to work, if this really is from God, right, we got to test each other in every way possible because guys, marriage is no joke. I want to make this very clear. Mallory and I are never encouraging or recommending you guys, just to get married to this girl just for the sake of it because like you're Christian. No, guys, we still have to be very practical. We have to be wise as serpents. We have to be very, like pragmatic. Guys, the reality is like, yes, we have our spirit, we're born again, but we still have our flesh, okay? There are bad people out there, guys. Unfortunately, yes, still with Christians. So we're not ever encouraging you guys like the first girl you see, as long as she drives you around and buys your food, that's the one. No, that's not what we're saying.
Yeah, I would just say to add to that really briefly is like we went through our courting thing pretty quickly because, like I said, we realized that there was that potential of marriage, and obviously like God had already spoken to me. So I was kind of just like, well, I'm going based off your pace and stuff. So yeah, when David went back to Canada, we had, started courting and everything. This was 3 days into us courting, and him and I actually came to you about it. I was like, hey, if this is like from God, I don't want to like waste time. I also don't think that it's smart. So this is an exhortation to you guys. If you know something could be from God or is from God, do not waste time lollygagging of like just, hanging out. I thank God we did things over like, remote or over phone and stuff because we weren't able to just waste time of like going out to movie dates and stuff. Like getting to know somebody and spending time with them is important. But after 3 days of us courting, like I said, I went to David and I was like, we need to start asking these hard questions. If you're okay with that, I would love to start now. And that's when we just like right out of the rip. I remember the first few things that we talked about was like, okay, what is your idea for future family? What are like the boundaries with in-laws? Well, how many kids do you want?
Homeschooling.
Yeah, exactly.
Schooling.
What are your thoughts on, birth control, if at all?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so we just started ripping on things that a lot of people that would be dating probably in the world, and maybe even some Christians would wait months to talk about. But we're like, no, because again, that's what I told you. I was like, look, if we don't align with this stuff, I'm not going to waste my time. That only does myself and you a disservice.
Yeah, guys, I think another green flag, there's so many green flags, is you actually want to be, of course, as the man to the woman, but especially, it's not as common, the woman being very direct to you. Like, again, she said after the third day, Mal was like, okay, look, like if we're going to take this serious, let's jump straight in. Like I got a bunch of questions and I was all game. I was like, yeah, like, drill in as hard as you want. Like, let's see, right? Let's make sure we really are equally yoked. So yes, just for some practicality for you guys, this was things like this, right? How many kids do you want to have? Okay. What if a kid was born with a disease?
Right.
Do you want to homeschool them? Do we want to give them to public school? What are your thoughts on like politics? What's your stance on more political issues? Like whatever, guys. And now again, Mallory and I knew we were very equally yoked with a lot of the political things because like we were evangelizing. Mallory and I bring politics into the gospel because a lot of politics now are so anti-gospel. Right. But yeah, guys, just very honest things. And I remember the only thing I think I said, hey, like this, I don't know if this is a problem to you or not, because I don't know, women are different. I said, I just don't want to have kids the second I get married. Because I know some women, like the second they get married, that wedding night, like, okay, kid, popping out a kid. I said, I think I just want about a year or so to kind of just collect myself, gather myself, grow the ministry. And then she said, that was fine. She actually agreed. You were like, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted time for us to be able to enjoy one another. And like you were saying, growing the ministry and stuff. But I definitely want to hit more specifics on the questions that we were asking, like you were alluding to. Like we said, the family questions within our immediate family. We also ask like, hey, what are your plans or your ideas with like in-laws? What if my parents get sick, or what if your parents get sick? Do you believe that's a responsibility for us to take care of? And then we jump straight into finances. So like, how much debt do you have? Do you have any? And then we jump straight into the finances. Like, okay, do you have any debt? How much? Do you plan on paying that off yourself? Or is that something that we are expected of one another to help each other out with? How much money do you currently have? You know, David obviously had a lot more than me at the time. And kind of like planning, okay, well, what are like our financial goals for like the future if we were to come together? Like, I remember one of the questions you asked me initially was like, okay, like if we or you start bringing in money, like what would you spend that or allocate that towards? And what did I say?
Bro, guys, do not let your woman,
I have a generous heart. I'll just
don't let her be the one in stewarding all the finances, okay? I was like, now, if you made all the money, what would you invest it in? And I'm thinking like, she's going to say this ministry and this and this. She was like, well, you know.
That is what I said though. Like I want to give money to people. She
basically was just like, I would just like give it all away. I'm like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, I just give it to everyone else's ministry and like, no problem. I'm like, okay, that's good. It's good to have that heart, but like, we got to make sure we got to steward our ministry first. Okay. And
he was like, no, we got to save up for a down payment on a house. I was like, but that was good talking about, because that right away showed us that like, okay, David's going to be the head and in charge of finances, at least for like the first part of our marriage. And then that's something that he can like teach me and train me up in. Cause like I'm younger. I just didn't know.
Yeah. How to steward correctly. Yeah.
Okay. So that was finances. I think another thing that we went into right away is, what was your sexual background? So like things that you've done in the past. We also talked about like, okay, what are your expectations with pursuing purity within courting and then within marriage? Because you're still going to be like pursuing some level of purity like within marriage. Like you're choosing to be pure for one another. Like,
yeah, of course you're gonna be pure in marriage.
Yeah, I know.
You're not gonna be cheating.
No, I know, but like that's stuff we have to talk about. Like, do you consider pornography cheating? Do you consider like masturbating, cheating and stuff? I have to make sure we're equally yoked on that, because that was like a big no for me. Like even like, I don't know, even like looking at other girls, I'm like, boy, you better chill out. But we had to make sure that we were on that same like level of expectations. I don't look at other girls, by
the way, guy. I mean, yeah, like girls walk by, but like I'm not like, hey girl, what's your number?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Unless they're like 40-year-old moms, 50-year-old moms.
And then within that too, we were also asking each other questions. What was that?
I thought you were gonna catch on it. because the moms like at like IHOP or like the grocery store, I'd be like flirting with them.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's just a joke, guys.
Anyways, but then we were also asking questions, what are our expectations with like relationships with the opposite sex within courting and then within marriage? Like, do we think it's okay for the other one to have a friend that is the opposite sex, or are we just going to have friends that are mutual friends between the both of us? Stuff like that. Can you think of like any other courting questions?
Yeah, guys, I honestly, I was like, you're not having guy friends. It's weird. There's no reason for you to talk to other men. There is no reason if you're a girl to have guy friends. That is the gayest thing I've ever heard in my life. You're getting married, okay? And if you're a dude and you have girlfriends, you don't have girlfriends, man. You have ulterior motives. So I said, yeah, no guy friends. Yeah, so as far, like we were saying beforehand, guys, you both are just equally yoked as far as the guy. You're not having a bunch of girlfriends. She's not having a bunch of guy friends. You both should get to know each other's past as far as what you guys did. Are you virgins? Are you not? How much? Again, it's not going to be a deal breaker or not. It's going to depend on you and your situation. Our past has been pretty clean. I'll leave it at that. I think for the woman, it does matter a lot more, but it is the same with men too. As a man, if you're a man whore, I mean, that's definitely, she has every right to second think marriage because of that. Really, I think what it comes down to though is your flesh right now. If you're let's just be honest, guys. If you're dealing with like a Pornhub addiction as a man or a woman, you're dealing with masturbation addiction, whatever it is, you have escorts. I mean, you name it, guys. That's really what's most important. Right. Yes, guys, our past can matter, but it only matters if it's still affecting our present. Do you understand? Because again, guys, we're all washed clean, and so that's not what I'm talking about when it comes to salvation or your spirit. No, but these things matter, man. If you have a lot of hang-ups with exes or what they call it, dead idols in the closet, or just like things you do in secret, of course that matters, guys. So Mallory and I really were pretty clean when it came to that. Mallory more so than me, but yeah, we were both good. And, but that is very important, guys. I know it's kind of a taboo subject. A lot of Christians don't want to talk on, but you have every right as a man and a woman to ask those questions. And I know they're not easy to hear, but yeah, you should know them before you move forward.
Just to expand on that, not just within like the sexual thing that you may be struggling with right now, that was something that Dave and I asked each other of like, okay, what are like your struggles spiritually right now? Because if we're going to get married within like the next couple months or this next year, like that may be something that like a burden I may have to take on, or a burden that you may have to take on. So we discussed each other's like strengths and weaknesses that we believe that we have, how we handle conflict, or how we may avoid it if that was something that we struggled with. I remember, David was very honest, like, yeah, I struggle with my temper, in this sort of areas. And that's where I can, decide if like this is something that I, want to be able to move forward with. I think for me, I would made it very clear to David, I struggle with actually being very vulnerable, because for myself, I always thought that was like a sign of weakness. So that was something that I would like try to avoid. So I was like giving David a heads up on that. But yeah, I think that's a good summary of like the questions that we asked. I think that's going to be different. You guys are going to need to hit on different things depending on what you two go through. So I'll just say as an encouragement to you guys, if you're currently courting somebody or the person that you will court in the future, the Holy Spirit's going to lead you to everything that you need to know. Just continue to lean on him through that. And I think that's what actually the main reason, obviously, why we're able to get married and move things very efficiently is because we just kept seeking God about it. Like I remember almost after every FaceTime, we would pray and be like, God, if there's anything that you want us to like, expose, or things that we need to hit on, things that we need to sharpen before we come together, you just make it clear. So.
Yeah, and I think the final thing, guys, that I really noticed, and again, some of you guys might get angry at this, whatnot, you guys are both going to be sharpening each other, right? She's going to be bringing out things of you that you need to work on, and vice versa. But in our case, Mallory, like I said, with that little like bore, right? Mal was really damaged beforehand, because I wouldn't even say damaged, but I just mean like, this is why women need men, okay, guys? Men have the mantle of being able to face life head on with all of its garbage and being able to endure and just toughen it up. And in fact, a lot of times it always makes men stronger, where with women, it doesn't, guys. It kills women. Women, they just break down, okay? And Mallory looked a certain way and had on that baggage, and I had to say, hey, look, I'll be honest with you. If I'm going to marry you, I need a lot of this stuff to get fixed. I need you to dress more feminine. I need you to be more feminine. I don't want to date a masculine girl. No man wants to date a masculine girl. No woman wants to date a feminine man. If you get triggered, you're delusional. And
a lot of women do want to date feminine men, but it's because of like birth control and like they're immature.
Yeah, but
they want to date boys.
When you're on birth, that's not good. No natural woman, okay, and vice versa.
Right.
So yeah, that was me saying, hey, Mallory, like, yeah, you're gonna have to start dressing different. And look, there's a lot of women who are going to get really butthurt and say like, how dare you? She can do whatever she wants. That's fine. But like, if I'm the one getting married to her, then I'm able to say these things. Right. And men, you are too. And again, guys, this goes both ways. If you are a woman and your man is like smoking weed every day and these are things you're not okay with. Look, if you're going to get married to them, speak up. That's what I'm saying. If it bothers you, speak up on it, vice versa, right? So yeah, those are things that I really had to push at Mallory to say, hey, like, whether that's, put more effort into your looks, makeup, changing your clothes. And maybe there were some times where it was a little difficult for Mallory, but because she respected that and she submitted to that authority, and really it was God telling you to do that more than I wanted to do.
That's what I was going to point out. I'll say two things, because I know there's probably going to be a lot of girls of like, how could you? And I even, wrestled in my flesh at times of like, is this trying to push me to be something that I'm not? But like, I never actually thought that, because God had been convicting me of all these things a year prior. But it was something that in my pride, I was ignoring or being disobedient to. And something that Dave and I talk about often is, David specifically, but both of us, we may seem very harsh or seem like we're attacking people on things. Like some people may have seen our situation from the outside and they thought David was attacking me personally. But really what it is he was attacking the spirit behind it. He was attacking the pride, the hurt, the trauma that motivated me to be very masculine, to be outside of my God-given feminine frame, that caused me to dress very streetwear. That's because I wasn't comfortable in my own body. That's because I was trying to hide myself in shame. That's why I wore my glasses, in the past. That's why I didn't really care to put effort in as far as like makeup, because I thought I was too good for that, even though women have been gifted with, this is the things God was showing me, women have been gifted with the ability to make things beautiful, whether ourselves or everything that we touch. And so again, I just really want to clarify that like, it wasn't David trying to like put me into a mold and something that I wasn't. It was like God confirming everything he was speaking to me through him, and he was encouraging me to submit to what God was asking me to do.
And one thing I want to say too, because that may sound abusive or mean, what you guys need to understand is that if you're a godly man following after God, everything I tell her, if I'm being convicted through the Holy Spirit, it's directly going to benefit her.
Right.
Like I'm not saying, God told me you need to start smoking weed. And like, so if your boyfriend, your future husband is telling you things that are just unbiblical, if I'm not going to marry you unless you start drinking and unless you start doing, then of course, guys, but that wasn't what I was doing. I was saying, hey, yes, okay, put away these old idols, because that's what it is. It's idolatry. It's feminism. You don't need to dress like that, okay? That's in what is it, Deuteronomy? A woman should not put on a man's garment and vice versa. So I just goes both ways. To the ladies, your man, if he's a godly man, is going to actually purify you. He's going to pull you further towards God. And you should know that, because you should feel those convictions through God alone. If you're feeling those convictions and your man is a confirmation to that, then absolutely. But guess what? That's not always going to be easy. Like, your man and your woman should always call you higher. If I'm dealing with, insecurity issues or anger issues or things like that, and Mallory's calling me higher towards that, even if it's painful in the moment, you understand, even if I'm resisting and I think, whatever idea in my head, we just got to be honest with ourselves. They are trying to help us, and the fruits are evident through looking at Mallory. So that was really kind of the last thing I noticed. I got to be honest with you guys, for you women, like, if you do not submit to your man, especially in marriage, of course in marriage, but I mean, like, let me put it this way, okay? If your man has put in all of this work into fulfilling God's mission, and he's saying, hey, for you to be a helpmate, I would like you to do A, B, C, D.
Right.
And if you're going to cross your arms and throw a little hissy fit, he has zero reason to marry you. Yeah. Do not be entitled and think, well, he needs to change for me. Heck no, he doesn't. He was on his mission. You entered his domain. We need to get that very clear, guys. As a man, you are fully on your Paul arc. I truly do believe your woman is sent to you. Yep. She takes on your last name. She enters your frame. This is my house. This is my camera equipment. Actually, this is Mallory's camera equipment, the road stuff. But you get what I'm saying? Like, the ministries ultimately come under your name. And that's not because, we're oppressive. No, it's because I have the mantle of that burden of responsibility that if things go wrong, I need to fix that. Not because I'm better in value, but because that's where the authority lies in that realm. Mallory has certain skills that I don't have, but when it comes to that burden of responsibility, that's on me. Boom. And it goes both ways, guys. Like, your woman doesn't have to submit to you if you're a brokey who's going to say, you pay all the bills. You understand what I'm saying from the man's perspective.
Right. The other thing I wanted to touch on previously that goes along with what you were saying is we need to get this idea out of our mind that we are perfect exactly the way that we are. There's a reason why the world teaches that theology specifically to women, or that like ideology. Right. It's that you're perfect the way that you are. You deserve a man that's going to accept you the way that you are. Right. They say the same thing about Jesus. The LGBTQ, they like to come at us when we preach against their lifestyle, and they say, well, Jesus loves and accepts me. Acceptance does not mean the ignoring of flaws that are very evident. So we need to get this idea that you're perfect exactly the way that you are. You're not, whether the man or the woman. We have so much growth that we have to do with our own walk with Jesus and sanctification. God is constantly going to be purging out dead idols, fleshly things out of our life. And he's going to do that through the man or woman of God that he's going to send you. So when you can accept that, and again, it really does have to be from God. I'm not saying that, like, if you like somebody out of the flesh and it's like a tyrant man of God, and they're trying to hurt you. Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying that.
Don't do that.
But if it's from God, you have to trust that even when it's painful, the stuff that they're saying to me or trying to help me with or change me, it's for my benefit. It's for my good. And it's for the glory of God at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, guys, is now that we are married, right, that's kind of like the final step, there's still going to be, our buddy, John Franco, he used a verse in Deuteronomy, I think it was 24:5.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, which along the lines, I know this is Old Testament, guys, Old Covenant, but it went along the lines of, like, if you're a man, right, and you're initially, men are a lot of times were in war back then, right? If you get married, take 1 year off war to essentially just to kind of like take care of and love your wife, right? Yeah. To kind of like mend with her before you go back out into war. I think that was just like a mandatory rule men had to do. So when you guys are married, like, you still are that mending process. Kind of think of like you're almost what's the word? When you like
fuse together.
When you fuse, what is that actual word though? When you with iron?
Molded?
you guys know what I'm talking about? Where like with that heat, they literally like, they sear iron together, guys. You can just imagine how painful that would be, right? To like literally sear something together. And yeah, that's going to happen, guys. So again, this actually comes after marriage, because Mallory and I have both been doing a lot. Mallory with myself, guys, that fusing process. It's almost like you're burning off those last bits of dead idols and insecurities. And really on top of that too, guys, we'll make separate videos on this, but Satan, now that you are married, is going to attack you guys a lot. He's going to bring up things from the past, your past. He's going to twist lies and narratives, and yes, you're both just continuously purging each other. So it is a very humbling process, but we'll save that for a different video. So that is that. Is there any last thing you want to say? Because we banged out over an hour easily.
Yeah, I guess the last thing that I'll finish with is an extension of what you were just saying with that verse in Deuteronomy, where you should be taking a year off. Obviously it's Old Testament, but like you need to take time after getting married to like become one with that person. That's what the Bible says, the two become one flesh. And I feel like a lot of people get it backwards, that when you're courting or dating, which we really shouldn't even be dating as Christians, but like they think that you have to go through that year-long, two-year process of like becoming one with that person. But like everything we've been talking about in this video is like, it was just green flag, confirmation it was from God. We asked all the hard questions, and then we took like a month and a half, not even 2 months, to like obviously solidify that a bit more. But then we got married by faith, and now we're still going through that process of becoming one. So I guess I would just finish with the exhortation or encouragement to you guys of like, you don't have to have every box checked, or you don't have to feel like you're perfectly 100% bang on to marry this person. When you know it's from God, when you've gotten the confirmation, when you know that, okay, this person, yes, they have flaws. Right. Yes, I have flaws as well. But we have one mission. We have shared values. Let's get this thing started and rolling. And that first year is maybe gonna be a little rough. I believe that's why the Bible says to like take a year to really just like love and become one. But we're gonna do it together. Why are we wasting time? But yeah, that's the last thing I'll say.
Yeah, guys, just know that, and I know no one really thinks this, but it's not like, obviously we do all the courting and then we get married, and then like we're, you know, honky dory, everything is sunshine and rainbows. No. When you get married, guys, it just keeps going. And again, we're not claiming to be experts or anything, guys, far from that. But it has been 4 months, and I can objectively tell you guys, and I know there's going to be many more trials and things like that, but I can tell you guys that it does get better. If you guys continuously get seared together, and it's going to be hard at first, man, almost like a purging phase. Like if you, I don't know if some of you guys understand, like you take Accutane or something, and the first few months, or like, I don't know, some product, it gets worse. You react bad before it gets better. That's kind of like I feel with marriage, where they're going to bring up insecurities in you that you didn't even know you had, simply put, guys. And now it's okay. Romans 8:28, God's purging these to let these go so Satan doesn't have a foothold over them, because Satan will use these things, guys, and twist them. So it continuously gets better. But like Mallory says, you're not going to be perfect, and don't believe the lie that everything has to be perfect before you get married. No. We have God's promise, the confirmation, and he's going to work at all these things for those who love him and are called according to his plan. Boom. That is that, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you all enjoyed it. If you guys did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. If you guys are interested, we'll finish it here with the one final plug. This ministry is self-funded by you guys. You allow us to do what we do and take this global over the world, guys. So if you guys want to sow into this ministry, that'll be the first link down below. We greatly appreciate it. I myself offer discipleship coaching to men. If you are a man looking to get on your Paul arc, to be better equipped as a disciple of Christ, theologically, practically speaking, getting ready for marriage, guys, or maybe you are already married and are looking for that bigger brother or someone to hear you out, spots are open. I love speaking with you men.
Next, I also offer one-on-one coaching and discipleship for my sisters. So for any women out there that are feeling the inclination and call from God to really embrace your God-given femininity rather than running away from it, I would love to help you guys and speak with y'all. There are spots open. Alongside with that, my coaching also comes with helping equip you guys with evangelism and how to share your faith within your feminine, godly frame.
Thank you guys so much. We'll check you next video. Till then, much love.
Peace.